Good evening, I'm Jose Cardenas. A federal judge rules that the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office engaged in racial profiling against Latinos. We'll talk to the legal director for the American Civil Liberties Union of Arizona about the ruling. Learn about a new program to help Arizona high school students and their families prepare for success at ASU. And the story of a group of young musicians who create music with instruments made out of trash. All this coming up next on Horizonte.
Funding for Horizonte is made possible by contributions by the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station.
Thanks for joining us. Last week, a federal judge found that the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office engaged in unconstitutional racial profiling against Latinos. The judge ordered the MCSO to stop targeting Latinos when making law enforcement decisions. The lead attorney representing Sheriff Joe Arpaio plans to appeal the finding that the agency engaged in racial profiling. Joining me to talk about the ruling is Daniel Pocoda, legal director for the ACLU of Arizona. Dan, welcome to Horizonte. You've been on the show before. We've talked about some of these issues before. 142 pages?
Indeed.
What's your best summary?
The judge ruled in the favor of plaintiffs in a very comprehensive and detailed opinion, which supported all of our allegations, the plaintiffs' allegations that have been made by the community for the past 5 or 6 years about the massive abuses and unconstitutional actions by this sheriff and his entire department. And the judge found in a very carefully worded opinion it will be an appeal-proof decision, and the Ninth Circuit will not overturn it given the careful consideration and the well-documented findings. The court found that there was a systematic policy and practice in the MCSO from the sheriff on down, starting with the sheriff, to violate the basic constitutional rights of Latinos in Maricopa County. The action was on behalf of all Latinos in the county who were stopped by the sheriff's office in a vehicle, passengers and drivers. And the court, this is the first and most important step in stopping those practices.
Now, the court, in terms of the timeline of events, drew a distinction between the point in time when sheriff's deputies were authorized under 287G to assist in immigration enforcement, and then thereafter when the Department of Homeland Security took away that authority. Were they doing anything different before and after? And if so, if they weren't, what was the impact of that in terms of the legality?
Well, it had some impact in terms of aspects of the legality. The court found that at every point the sheriff's office was operating unconstitutionally in that it was using race as a factor, impermissibly, as a factor in its law enforcement decisions. That was true even when they had the 287G authority, which is basically being sort of given authority by federal, the agency ICE, to assist them. They were deputized, if you will. And there were certain things that go along with that. They could stop people if you were one of the deputies in the sheriff's department that had that status. They were allowed to stop people based solely on reasonable suspicion that the person was in this country unlawfully, unauthorized. Once they lost that authority, they could not use that finding, and the court is very clear about that, either for enforcing federal immigration law or the state laws of human smuggling or the employment sanctions law could not be based on the reasonable suspicion that any sheriff's officer has that persons are in this country unlawfully. The court found that they were doing that regularly. That's not a crime to be in this country unlawfully. It's generally a civil violation, and that it requires criminal activity to have to form the basis of reasonable suspicion. Those have been enjoined. So it did give them some greater leeway in the reasonable suspicion equation when they were deputized, if you will, by the federal government. But even at that point, they were acting unconstitutionally in other ways. And they maintained their authority. They claimed that they could still exercise this authority even after they lost. The sheriff lost his 287G, but still continued to base reasonable suspicion just on the fact that they felt someone was here unlawfully.
Now the sheriff and the witnesses who testified for the sheriff all insisted that they always had probable cause to make the initial stop.
Well, they had probable cause in the sense they found some other violation, generally a traffic violation. They also testified, these officers, that they could find a traffic violation. If they watched any car on the street for a period of 2 minutes, they would find a traffic or vehicle violation, tail light out, driving over the white line. It was also clearly documented and found by this court that their selection as to who to stop for such violations was based on race. Because there were too many cars, they couldn't stop all of them who in fact committed such a violation, or that's all they would be doing. And the statistics were so clear when 90%, 85%, 80%, over 90% of the passengers who were stopped were Latino. It was clear that they weren't using a race-neutral criteria for deciding which cars to stop. And the court found that at every stage of the process, where to in fact have raids and operations, who to stop in terms of after they observed the passengers and drivers in a car, and who to investigate after the stop, the court found that race was a factor that is impermissible, has long been unconstitutional, and has been enjoined by this court.
Now, speaking of statistics, the last time we covered this topic on our show, we had counsel for both sides on the program, and certainly the sheriff's lawyer was making a point that your expert witness had been discredited, and that there were other plausible explanations for the numbers he was coming up with.
Well, the court disagreed, and we certainly disagree with that. The court found that Ralph Taylor, who was the expert for the plaintiffs, a recognized expert in statistics and in the field, did very careful studies demonstrating that was a disproportionate number of his Latinos that were stopped, particularly on these operations, these so-called crime suppression sweeps that were actually, let's get people who look like they're here illegally, meaning people of color, sweeps. And he found that the expert for the defendants, a fellow named Steve Camarata, who is an ideologue and very much associated with the anti-immigrant movement, as well as being a statistician, had not in any way refuted the claims, and indeed in many ways Camarata acknowledged that the findings of Mr. Taylor were accurate and based on good information.
Dan, one of the strategies that seemed to be employed by the defense was to draw a distinction between the sheriff's public statements and the actual training and conduct of the deputies. In essence, well, the sheriff may say what he says, but that's for public consumption. We follow the law. We were trained in the proper approach. In fact, they cite ICE as a basis for what they did. How did that play out in the court's opinion?
Well, not very well, as one can imagine. You know, the CEO of an organization cannot suddenly say, after running the place for the last 5 or 6 years, hey, it wasn't my job. It was, in fact, stipulated between the parties that the sheriff is the head of the agency, that his word is the law, if you will, of that agency, and that they all followed his word. So that just didn't carry any weight, as it shouldn't, with the court, that no, it wasn't my job. I am the head of the agency. The buck stops with him. And I should also add that that none of the officers involved also exhibited proper or constitutional conduct. The leaders of these outfits and units in the sheriff's department that oversaw these raids acknowledged that they made stops based on race, that they had no ability to check if anyone was racially profiling any of their officers. They didn't believe anyone racially profiled, because I know those guys and I trust them. And their own expert for the sheriff's department said that was below the standard of care of any professional law enforcement organization to not, in fact, look into whether racial profiling was going on, particularly given the very skewed statistics of 80–90% of the stops being Latinos. So that it's not as if the officers themselves, the line people, in fact, were acting properly, and the sheriff alone was acting improperly. It was equally the blame of all, starting with the top.
Dan, I know there's a lot more to talk about in this opinion, and there's a lot more to come. So we'll probably be having you back to talk about that, because we're out of time right now. But thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. Happy to be back.
ASU Future Sun Devil Families is a new program to help high school students and their families prepare for success at the university. Although the program is open to families of all Arizona high school students, it is aimed at families with first-generation college-bound students. We'll talk to our guest about the program in a moment, but first, here's a short video promoting the upcoming program. Join me now to talk more about this program, Beatriz Rendon, Associate Vice President of Educational Outreach and Student Services at ASU. Beatriz, welcome to Horizonte.
Thank you.
Quite a snappy video. This is the first year that you're doing this. Give us a kind of an overview of the program.
Sure. So Future Sun Devil Families is part of the Access programming efforts out of the Office of Educational Outreach and Student Services. And we're primarily targeting high school students, and specifically this fall it will be high school 9th graders in some target districts that have traditionally been underrepresented at Arizona State University. And what we plan on doing with these students and their families is basically giving them, and through a series of 7 workshops that they'll attend throughout the course of the year, lots of information on college preparedness, on financial aid, on effectively making sure they're on course to not just be eligible to attend our university, but also be accepted and successful once there.
And can you give us a little sense of the demographics of your target districts?
Sure. So our target districts include Tolleson Unified School District, Phoenix Union School District, Glendale, Tempe, and Mesa Unified School Districts.
And as I understand it, the pilot program is being conducted in Tolleson. It started this year, or this last school year, the beginning of the school year. How's it going?
So far, it's been very well received. It's been a great pilot. We have about 250 families that are currently participating, and but the family unit consists of the one student and a parent that have been receiving the curriculum and the workshops, and they've found it to be extremely beneficial.
How do kids get involved?
Simply go to your counselor, or I think we're going to show some information here later about how to get more information. But so long as you have an average of a 2.5 GPA in your core courses, meaning your English, your social studies, your math, and your science, and you attend one of the schools in these participating districts, along with actually our ASU Preparatory Academy, so ASU has its own charter schools, you can participate in the program.
And do they self-select, or are you actively making efforts to solicit participation?
We're actively working with our district partners, and so we've worked with these districts, with some of these districts for a while now on a variety of other programming efforts, like the American Dream Academy, which works with recent immigrant families, as well as the Hispanic Mother-Daughter Program, which works with some of our Hispanic female students and their mothers. And so we've worked with these districts already on some of these efforts, and Future Sun Devil Families is a way to really broaden the scope and the service that is family centered and addresses both students and their parents to ensure that they're going to make it to our university.
So give us a sense of what someone new to the program would be doing in this first year, and
Sure.
then, as I understand it, they can come back for their other years in high school.
That's correct. So initially we're starting with 9th grade, and we'll be growing a grade every year. And so the ultimate goal is to have approximately about 7,000 students participating in any, students and their family participating in any number of the schools that we're involved in. But effectively, some of the college preparedness workshops include, for example, what courses to take in high school, what you should be doing relative to community service, what you should be doing with your summers, how to be engaged so that you're a strong college applicant to our university. Also, the test that you need to take, whether it be the ACT or the ACT, as well as how to write a personal essay. So there's any number of sort of college preparedness type of workshops and levels of information that they'll be receiving, so that we ensure they're strong right out the gate.
So let's say I'm in the program, I'm a freshman, I get all that information my first year. What do I get the second year?
We're currently still developing the curriculum, so we'll continue to augment that. I mean, some of the content there's only so much you can cover in a workshop series, so we might go more in depth in some of those areas. So I imagine at the point that students start applying for financial aid, it's something we've talked about for a long time, but maybe we start to migrate more to helping them actually complete some of that information, or also giving them any other information on other scholarship opportunities that might exist outside of just federal assistance.
And as I understand it, some of the workshops would involve both the student and the parent at the same time. Others, you would separate them?
Yes.
What would you be telling the parents?
Well, to the parents, I think it's most important to really help build their level of awareness on how to best advocate for your child, how to know that your child is on track to attend a four-year university. We are working with our partner districts in partnership because, quite frankly, our high schools in Arizona are really quite large, and there aren't sufficient counselors to really go in depth with every single student on the campus. You sometimes have a situation where you have 1,000 students assigned to one counselor, so we like to think we're partners with our districts in ensuring that students are getting the information in their 9th grade year and every year thereafter to ensure that they're going to be on track from the get-go and stay on track. Because once you get behind, if you get behind in that 9th grade year, it's really hard to catch up throughout the rest of your high school program. Our requirements to get into the university include, for example, 2 years of a foreign language. Well, many students don't necessarily always take that. They might think they've taken it 1 year and that's it. And if they find that out in their senior year, it might be too late.
It's too late. Beatriz Rendon, thanks for joining us on Horizonte to talk about future Sun Devil families.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Landfill Harmonic is an upcoming documentary about an orchestra from a remote village in Paraguay where its young musicians play with instruments made from trash. We'll talk to the executive producer in a moment, but first, here's what the Landfill Harmonic is all about.
Mi nombre es Ada Maribel Ríos Bogado, tengo 13 años y toco el violín.
Me llamo Juan Manuel Chávez, más conocido como Baby, tengo 19 años y toco el cello. Este cello está hecho de una lata de aceite, la madera tirada en la basura y las clavijas son de una vieja cuchara para golpear la carne y para hacer el ñoquis. Y suena así.
Una comunidad como Cateura no es un lugar para tener un violín. De hecho, un violín cuesta más que su casa.
En ese grupo acá mismo encontramos el colado de violín. Y de ese empezamos los instrumentos reciclados.
Joining me now to talk about the documentary is executive producer Rodolfo Madero. Rodolfo, welcome to Horizonte.
Thank you very much for
That's
having me.
amazing. I mean, the kind of music that the young man was getting out of that cello was just fantastic. And you've got one of the instruments here with you.
Yes, this is a viola, or a violin, and this is one of the instruments that these kids play at the Recycle Orchestra of Cateura.
Now let's talk about how the program got started. I think the piece of the video we saw featured the two people most responsible for this program.
Yeah, one of them is Fabio. Fabio is a music teacher, and he wanted to bring music to privileged kids, and he picked Cateura as the place. Cateura is it's the landfill or the dumpster of Asunción, Paraguay, and people live there from trash.
They're actually living
trash.
in the landfill area.
They live in the landfill area, and they go every day to pick up recycled materials or materials that they recycle and they sell, and that's where the story born.
And he decided that there must be some way to make instruments out of these materials?
It happened by accident. He wanted to bring music to these barrios, and he invited the parents to bring their kids, and so they could learn music. And they were expecting just a few kids the first day, and suddenly 50, 60 kids show up, and there were no instruments to teach all these kids music. So they, one of the people living in the barrio, and Fabio came up with the idea of building instruments out of the materials that they had available there. I mean, oil tin cans and pieces of wood and forks, and they came up with, they created one violin, and that led to a full set of instruments. Now it's a part of the orchestra.
Now, as I understand it, as beautiful as the music was that we heard from that one instrument, they're actually harder to play than the original instruments that they're patterned after.
They are. I have a friend that's a violinist, and he thought it was going to be fun to play with one of these instruments, and he almost didn't get a sound out of it. And he's a concert violinist. I mean, he's a professional, but he did. Eventually he did, and they're hard to play. So these kids are doing a phenomenal job of playing these instruments. They're harder to play than a real violin, but once they get their way around they start playing the instruments, it sounds beautiful.
And these kids, their instruments, their music are the subject now of a documentary that you're working on with some colleagues. Tell us how that all got started.
Alejandra Amarilla Nash, she is the founder and executive producer of the project. She and Juliana Peñaranda went to Paraguay.
And they're both originally from there, or at least
Alejandra is originally from Paraguay. Juliana is from Colombia. And Alejandra wanted to bring to light stories of their people, and hopefully, as a result, helping those communities.
And they found this story, and then they came to you to talk about it.
Yeah, and they started filming. They went a couple of times to Paraguay, and they brought it to me last year, and I became part of the team. And since then, we've gone 2 times to Paraguay, 1 to Brazil, and when we filmed the first time that the kids were leaving the country. Some of them didn't even have, let alone, not passports, but birth certificates. They didn't have birth certificates, so it was the whole process of them getting their passports and their birth certificates.
And that's important because some rather wonderful things have happened since you first started bringing their story to the world in the form of a trailer for the as yet unfinished documentary. Tell us about that.
Well, we launched our promotional video, hoping to get a few thousand likes in Facebook in November. And for our surprise, we started getting not a couple of thousands, but tens of thousands, and in a period of a month and a half. And from November 30th to February, the middle of February, we had got over 120,000 likes in our Facebook page, and over 3 million people.
And among those people are and I want to make sure we cover this because we're almost out of time, are professional musicians with national orchestras who are now playing with these kids? Is that right?
They are, no. Well, yes and no. They haven't been invited to play to places all over the world. But we have had requests from so many people, artists that want to compose for the orchestra, I mean, musicians that want to compose for the orchestra, people in the film industry that want to participate somehow in the film, collaborating with sound, editing, all sort of things.
And we've only got a less than a minute left. Tell us what's happening now with the documentary, when it's going to come out, and what the process is.
Well, we are shooting to film, we're sure to end the documentary film in November or December, just in time to submit for the Sundance Festival. We're still filming. We're still in the filming process. We are going to follow the orchestra to Europe, and we are going to have them come here in August to play for the first time in the United States, in Phoenix. There's a permanent exhibition at the museum, Musical Instruments Museum, MIM, of these instruments that you can go and see now.
We're talking about here in Phoenix.
It's here in Phoenix, in Scottsdale. And they are going to come and perform a series of concerts here with kids from schools, local schools, that are musicians as well.
Well, this is a terrific, wonderful story, and I'm sure we'll have you back and maybe talk some more about this. But thanks for sharing this with us on Horizonte.
Thank you very much for having me.
And that is our show for tonight from all of us here at Horizonte. I'm Jose Cardenas. Have a good evening.
Funding for Horizonte is made possible by contributions by the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station.